I like that we're RGB. I like that we're RGB. This is working really nicely. This is fun.
Yeah.
Troy's going to show up and ruin it, no matter what happens.
Fuck the whole thing up.
Yeah.
He's gonna fuck the whole
What could he be
up.
to make RGB work? He could be white.
Solid black flame.
We've got enough whites on this show.
Solid black. Yeah, we were before you appeared.
Austin literally did that joke before we started recording. Yeah, 100%.
Well, it was I feel like it was a collaborative joke because we were talking about how we collectively were the American flag because we're red, white, and blue.
Nice. Very good.
You like that?
Look at us go. Excellent work. Anyway, hi everyone. How have you been?
I forgot how to do this show. What do we talk about? What happens?
It's only been 2 weeks, but it feels like it's been a month.
It really does.
Putting a first time traveling internationally since the pandemic in the middle makes everything from before that trip feel like, oh, that was back during the pandemic. And
the pre-pandemic era.
I got this taste of normal life.
Yeah.
And so it feels like, you know, anything from before that is now that earlier. It's like the previous chapter of my life.
100%.
Did you get that from being in Brighton?
100%. Just going to a conference and like.
Oh yeah, you went to a conference.
Having dinners. It was weird.
Was it unsettling at all? Like, were you anxious?
I definitely forgot how people work.
Sure.
Like, I'm definitely like, you know, I have to be kind of very conscious with my communication generally, just because I have lots of challenges with that. But I genuinely forgot like how to talk to more than a couple of people at once. So like I found myself like,
you know, we do that once a week here.
It's different.
But it's different on a screen and a webcam. Like I've had friends over, but only ever like in very small groups and, you know, whatever.
Or with a strict one person at a time talking rule.
But like, well, no, but like sitting outside with like, you know, 3 or 4 kind of people from the same industry kind of chatting and just having to remind myself like to look inclusively at the other people.
I'm having eye contact problems pretty bad.
Doing eye contact is something I'm having to like relearn how to do.
So wait, what does that mean? That you would fixate on one person naturally because you're
just like, yeah, if I'm speaking, if the 3 of us are stood in real life and I'm talking and I'm like specifically talking to you, Austin, about like I'm asking you a question about something you do or like directed specifically at you, I had to remind myself that like Alana's also there and like it's rude to just talk directly to you and I need to like look around the group. Like I was having to like consciously do eye contact with
I'm having an issue of not looking at anyone.
Really? Just struggling to like maintain eye contact,
I feel like it's a weird thing to do that I'm like, what do I need to look you in the face for? That's strange. That seems a bit much. I barely know you.
So funny.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, exactly.
It's definitely
we saw each other not that long ago, and I didn't get any feeling of that from
you. Should have, because we spent most of that time walking, meaning there was no way for us to look at each other.
Direct movement forward, yeah.
You didn't notice that I was doing this the entire time?
You were crab walking the whole way?
I was staring and I never even blinked.
No, I didn't notice,
and
it sounds like you're
male, Austin.
I know, Austin's the alpha of this podcast.
Alpha's such an alpha.
Haha, take that, Troy.
Troy thought he was alpha?
I'm sure.
What's the one up from
He's
Alpha?
too stylish.
Or apparently,
No
what's
offense.
the one of like the John Wick kind of lives outside the system? What do they call that? Is it Sierra? No.
Wait a minute.
Sigma
Am I supposed
is
to
what I think it is too.
Am I supposed to take offense at acknowledging Troy is more stylish than me? Isn't that?
It's
like
I would think if you did that you've been kidding yourself for a really long time.
Yeah, I mean that's like
There'd be
being
a level of
flat earther
delusion
at
on
that point.
display.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I just wanted to make sure. You're very stylish. Your assortment of hoodies and shirts serves you well. As someone who only wears hoodies and shirts, Mike also. We understand. We can't pull off these fucking
have
hats that Troy Baker can.
Yeah, I don't even have. I have like 5 shirts that have actual stuff on the shirt. I phased that out at some point. It's all just single color. I don't know why.
I don't like a logo shirt anymore. I mean, this one is this is a Santa Monica Studio Gay Pride shirt. Thus, I love it. But I phased those out a while back too. I have very few logos anymore. It's like
it's a weird thing. I don't. It wasn't intentional.
We're just aging.
Yeah.
I think that's just the thing that as you get older, you're like less graphic tee. Graphic tee to me is like very early 20s kind of.
I loved them in my early 20s. And when I was a teenager, it's all about, I wore band tees.
In your defense, your early 20s was like 6 seconds ago.
That is technically true. You could argue that was 3 years ago, but it's been a long 3 years, Austin.
It's true. You spent 2/3 of that alone
in this
trying
tiny
to
apartment.
not get sick. Yeah.
Yeah. Weird
So
way to
it's
spend your
true.
20s. Oh, but yeah, how was your trip, Austin? How was it, your international adventure?
I actually I had all the same questions you were asking Mike of like, is this gonna feel a little weird? I mean, I've been to a few concerts, you know, not just that bowl, but been to the bowl a few times, been to a few other things a few times. You know, I've hung out, had a few kind of small dinners, and been to restaurants a few times, but they're all very mitigated. You know, like the restaurants, at least in LA, the policy is a very kind of, in my opinion, nonsensical. You know, you have to wear a mask as you move around, but as soon as you sit down, you're apparently in like, you're in a pathogen-free zone now. And so, you know, it feels a little ceremonial to me more than, but you get used to it and whatever. On the contrary, the trip felt literally like going back in time because I had to do a lot of hoops to go. You know, I had to have proof of negative vaccination. I mean, of complete vaccination and proof of negative like PCR test. And they checked it at every stage. Like I had a layover at the Newark airport in New Jersey, and they checked my stuff again, despite having checked it at the terminal at LAX. And then on arrival in Belgium and landing in Brussels.
I've always wanted to go there.
Oh, it was awesome.
It looks beautiful.
Once
Brussels
having
is
made
lovely.
it through the membrane, as it were, it was like, okay, now, you know, we rely on you that if you feel sick, you'll tell someone and you'll isolate yourself.
Yeah.
Like that's the condition. And so,
And of course, right now you're in Nicaragua, as is required to return to the US. Right?
Oh, that's
we
what-
all have the
that's what
same
Carrie
experience,
just did.
right?
yes, that wasn't just you, I promise. Yeah, I am.
I mean, when you
this
joke,
is a
but
screenshot.
Carrie's just had to spend 2 weeks in Canada for that exact reason.
Oh, for visa
to
stuff?
to get into America.
I tried to go to Canada, but their stupid consulate was closed.
Yeah, no, thank God didn't have that, although did have to go through all those hoops again. And for some reason, the test that was arranged for me by the hotel the day before my flight, I think I misread. I got an email that had a barcode. I thought, okay, I'm good. They see the barcode, they click the thing, it's done. Apparently that they were looking for like a PDF print off of their results computer that says you are negative. Because I showed up at the airport at 5 a.m, having been drinking up until I went to the airport. So I was on precisely 0 sleep and sitting at the airport. And they're like, yeah, this isn't, I don't know what this barcode, I've never seen this before. And I was like, but all I've done is what people who seemingly more in the know told me to do. At no point did I kind of go rogue and try to figure this out on my own. And they were like, I don't know what to tell you, but we have a little kind of pop-up operation. And so it's quite freezing at 5 a.m. in Belgium in October. And so had to go stand outside and go through a little bit of a comedy of errors scanning. They wouldn't, there's no physical anything. It's a QR code. And of course the signal was crap. So I had to like, you know, take a QR code and then copy paste the link, go back into the airport, email it to myself, use my laptop to get on the Wi-Fi, then fill out the form for my appointment, go back out there, get the pay. It actually was very reasonable. I think it was €50 for like a 20-minute turnaround test to finally be told. It's just all well and good, except for the fact that 45 minutes earlier was when we had left the bar, and it was now like 5:30 in the morning. And so it's just like the headspace of going, oh man, this is so, I really thought I was just going to come to the airport, just kind of relax, go through, and then, you know. But otherwise, yeah, I make it sound dramatic. It was all not a big deal. We were able to hang with friends, go to a bar. It all felt normal. There were no I didn't wear a mask the whole week. And that's the first time that's been the case, basically.
That's what Australia was like. It was like, I kept feeling weird leaving the house without one, but I was like, oh, I don't need one here though.
Yeah.
Strange.
Yeah, their attitude there is
You
the same.
definitely still need one in the UK.
Same here.
Yeah.
I think the UK is actually doing worse right now, unfortunately.
We are, yeah, I think we're doing quite badly.
By
right
what
now.
metric? Like absolute
More-
numbers or a per
more-
capita?
Cases.
More of
that's a good
everything.
question, Yeah.
More of everything. Well, I mean, well, so in terms of ratio, I think the ratio is similar of like, you know, cases to admissions, but we have a lot of cases and therefore a lot of admissions. The hospitals are starting to stack up a little bit again, which is a bit worrying going into winter.
Yeah, I
So
know.
wear your mask in a bloody shop,
December
British
was
people
the
watching
last.
this.
You said that in such a British way. Wear your mask in a bloody shop, will ya?
Yeah, I'm
Bloody
quite
hell.
like that.
Wear your fucking mask. So we have...
Go up the apple and pears, put a mask on. Oh, I wonder what the
check.
Cockney rhyming slang for mask is.
Ooh, that's a
I'll
good
just say
question.
up front, I've
There's got
still
to be
not.
one. There are groups that define these. There must be. I'm gonna have to
London
look
is
that up. There's gonna
doing
be.
much worse than LA.
Yeah,
Much
yeah.
worse. Like
Oh, I know.
30,000 to 1,000. Like London's 30,000 new cases. We are 900.
Yeah,
Wow.
we
Hot
are
damn.
The
very,
difference
very
was that
stupid.
disparate.
I think, yeah, you're doing much better with the kind of. I think British people, to an extent, have quote unquote gotten over this and are being very silly.
They've just gotten to a point where like bit much in it.
It's a bit much, isn't it?
Trying to go to the pub, yeah.
I want to, where's my blitz spirit, my freedom? Yeah, it's a lot of that nonsense, and it's a shame, but it's it's
Everybody
it's,
stay safe out there.
I've got some family members with COVID at the moment. It kinda
So
sucks.
I know people who have COVID in London right now too, actually. Yeah. But we could get into it, but I was like, I don't want to. I was going to report on how they're doing, but I was like, I'll leave that to medical professionals than my anecdotes. Master Baker, hello.
Well,
we're both.
Wait,
This
you know
is
what?
solid already. This is
We're both
Where
solid.
are you? What? Also,
atypically clean shaven. here,
you can't record your audio, can you?
No, I could be here for like 2 minutes. I'm at dinner with the team.
Where are you in the world right now, Troy?
I'm in Uxbridge,
Oh, you're in the UK right now. I forgot you're
Yeah.
coming over. Yeah, fair play.
and I'm on the worst lens I could
I'm
possibly.
getting on the
ever
train.
be.
Let's see
great.
this.
We were just talking before about how
No.
stylish you are.
Just as a heads up, you should know we are in fact recording in case the team you're with is a thing that should not be
Oh.
recorded as part of this.
He didn't say who they were. He just said the team.
I know. That's why I'm trying to get out in front of it.
There's thousands
Oh, I
of
see.
game studios in
Preemptively.
Uxbridge. It's fine.
You're in
There's a
the
million
microphone.
game studios in Uxbridges.
You look great. Well, we were just talking about travel. How is it? How do you feel? Is it nice being overseas?
I will say this: there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through in order to travel now, which is good. I think there should be a lot of hoops. It's easily manageable once you figure it out, but then you get here and it's like, never mind. It's like, okay. And clearly I'm in a restaurant right now, no mask, and it feels like the UK has kind of gotten themselves under control a little bit.
That is definitely not true.
Don't
Our
break
numbers
my
are
false sense of
terrible.
security.
Troy, when you're out the restaurant, put mask on, please. I don't want you to get sick.
No. The beauty of it is that the production that we're on has taken incredible precautions for us.
Oh, that's cool.
Everyone is,
You're alone in that
That's one of the cool
restaurant.
things about but the cool thing about flying, Austin, you know this because you just got back, is that they're like, everyone has to say that they don't have COVID before you get on a plane. And so then you get on the plane, you're like, I guess we're good. But man, the second that somebody coughs, you're like,
Yeah.
You still have to wear. They really aggressively enforced the mask on the plane. Like if you fell asleep and it like falls down, they grab you and they're like, put it on. That happened to me.
I got yelled
they
at
don't
to
like
put
you.
my mask back on while I was drinking. She was like, you need to have your mask on. And I was like, I'm drinking.
how's this work? How's this-
What?
Hey, can we have a conversation about physics? They're like, you're not a scientist.
Very
I think
good.
I would not have been able to resist just telling him, okay, this is on you, and then just absolutely make a horrible scene.
You're in an airplane and go,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, demonstrate the drinking problem.
I do miss you people. And I just watched the Morbius trailer and I wanted to talk. I want to talk all about it.
That
Well,
was
my
quite
intention for this episode is to talk about Dune. Have you seen it, Troy?
So it's been really great being able to see you guys.
I've not seen
This
Dune either, so I'm just going to chill out.
I don't want
and
to
enjoy this.
embarrass
It's
myself
fine.
any further because what I would say if we weren't recording, which I'm super glad we're not.
Definitely not.
We don't recording right
I
now.
How's Bully 2?
downloaded it on my iPad, not my iPod. I downloaded it on
disaster.
my watch it like this. Does anybody have an iPod anymore? I downloaded it on my iPad, and
I
the
think
only
that-
thing that is keeping me from watching it is people going, "You didn't watch that on your iPad, did you?"
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, dude, it's definitely
The feedback is right.
Yeah, that's not a movie to watch that way.
All right.
It is a rare film that it feels so like grand in its spectacle that
It's visceral.
it really is.
Yeah.
I was pretty
gnarly.
blown away by it. have
Me
to
too.
say.
Me too.
All right.
Well,
And I know that it was one of those that.
Can we talk about Chris Pratt being everything and the irony of me saying that? Apparently,
I was going to say, like, of all the people to tweet on that subject, Troy.
I was
fair
like,
play.
but that's the thing is, I'm the one that's saying it. It was like, look, I get what I'm saying.
But wait, I saw that there was an announcement that he's in a new. I'm already blanking what it was.
I think the anime was a gif, just a meme.
there were a lot of memes. It's Garfield
that-
is the actual one.
Oh, it was I didn't even see that one.
You just saw the memes?
The Garfield and Mario.
Because I kind of don't check my feed as much these days, and so when I saw it, it was
for you.
You don't check your feet as much.
my feed. I stare at longingly all day long. Yeah, exactly.
Wiki feet.
No, yeah. By the time I checked in on that, it was like we'd well gone past the initial reaction, and we were in meme territory. And I was like, I don't know what this is, and I don't care. But it's still, isn't that just mean Garfield and Mario then? Like, is it fair? Is there more than the two?
No, it's just that those two are unexpected. Like, they're iconic characters that, in my head, I would not go, oh, Chris Pratt. Have we thought about him?
This is the same problem. This is why I can't tweet about this. It's because people go, you're in every game. And I go, do me a favor and tell me every game that came out this year and tell me if I'm in it or not.
Also, the thing is,
that horror game from Bloober Team.
The Medium.
That didn't come out this year.
Medium, that's the one. Medium.
No games have come out this year, Troy. It doesn't count.
No games have come out this year, Troy.
No games have come out this year?
I'm sure
No.
you're in Ratchet and Clank somewhere.
Somewhere.
Deathloop, not in it.
The direct
Troy, when you're at the point where you're
Death
having to list
Stranding
the
director's
games you're
cut
not in.
just came
That's
out.
director's cut,
You're in
man.
that.
Doesn't count.
Yes,
That's
it does.
I especially love the.
stretch.
I love the kind of bragging. I'm not in Deathloop.
Yeah,
Like,
I can name like five
but he's not
games
bitter
I've got
about
in.
it. He's not upset about it at all.
I love
So
Chris
funny.
Pratt in
Deathloop.
Deathloop, though. That was awesome.
It's been great hanging out with you.
Fantastic.
He plays the black lead in Deathloop
does.
as well. It's
Rest
incredible.
my
Yeah.
case. No, but it's the same thing as Chris Pratt. I mean, you get the back to back. You get the BioShock and the Last of Us back to back, and people are like, "Oh, he's in everything now." Or Tom Holland, same thing. He does the 3-point land in the Uncharted trailer. People goes, "All I see is Spider-Man." It's like, well, no, I agree.
Troy,
I think
you're in a
that
lot of
either-
games. You're in a lot of games.
I'm in a lot of games.
Also, in your defense, like
You're in literally a Spider-Man game and an Uncharted game, just to use your last example as an example.
the funny thing is, I didn't even know that Troy was in Miles Morales until I was playing it, and I was like,
Me too.
Me neither.
Because
Yeah,
he
it
doesn't tell
surprised
us, and
me
then
as
you're
well.
just like,
Yeah.
"What? Oh, this motherfucker again." I had that one time. I left the podcast to go play The Crew for Funhouse,
Oh, yeah.
and so I had heard Troy, and then I was like, "Is that fucking Troy?" He's
everywhere.
inescapable.
I've started imagining him in roles that he's not playing. I've started being like, is that Troy? And it's not.
It's Chris
Like,
Pratt.
That's the level I'm
Bro,
at
you
now.
were
It's Chris
awful in
Pratt.
Witcher 3. I'm like, that's not mean. That's coffee.
But we
Well, what I was
doing
going to
it,
say
you're
though
like,
is, in
you
your
were in that,
defense,
weren't you? You were
like,
in that.
relative to the Uncharted is 2 Spider-Man criticism that I guess I don't know that I share that. I also
No,
don't
I
that
don't either.
I don't know that I really even care enough to kind of get worked up over it. To me, it seemed fine. But if acknowledging that, the in your defense, like rarely is that the thing. It's like if people don't even realize, it's like how many people, this is obviously a slightly more esoteric example, but like how many people played Medium or Pathless and then as the credits rolled went, what the fuck, really? And when they saw your name. So
Totally.
like that's the big
Yeah.
difference, I would say.
Hopefully.
not to,
I got to stick and move in these days, man, because I don't want people thinking that. Look, I learned a lot from the example of Nolan North, and it wasn't that, Nolan North necessarily was in every game. It was that Nathan Drake was in every game. Like, people looked at that and they were like, that's what we want, a relatable, affable, charming, wisecracking guy. That character got cast. To that point, I really got to point out the fact Rahul Kohli, who is probably the number
Heard of
one
him.
guest on the show.
Friend of the show.
he's the most frequently
Friend of the show.
recurring guest on this show, I think.
Yeah.
That's true.
Paul Greg.
He tweeted us something today, and he said,
I guess they're ties.
this tweet didn't age well, and he was talking about how he doesn't want to take roles away from Dev Patel, but he wanted to take roles from, because I want to go up to the roles that are being offered to Chris Pratt and Chris Hemsworth and Chris whoever the other Chris's are, Christopher Guest, and I'm like, man, I have not looked at that in such a succinct, clear, cogent way, and I was like, this tweet is still, it still stands out as solid content, because that is the truth. And I fear that representation is not the end of the conversation when it comes to diversity. Yeah, this music right now, this is not underscoring my point well at all. I think that a lot of people, I think a lot of people can say that, well, as long as we have diversity, then, or representation, that we have now been diverse. And I don't think that's it. I think that it has to go further up the river, and that if we just end with representation by saying, look, we have a person of color, we have someone who is LGBTQ+, we have someone, then therefore we are diverse, as opposed to going, are you rethinking the way that characters are being created and presented? And that it doesn't start with casting, it starts with the writing, it starts with the production. So I don't know. I give mad props to Rahul for helping me be able to frame that conversation in a much better way, as opposed to going, oh, here's another role that you could go out for that's made for a brown dude.
It's like, don't just give me the brown dude. He got a lot of tweets. Like, I think he quote tweeted a few of them when Squid Game came out, where people were like, you should have played this guy in Squid Game just because he was brown.
Yeah.
That's it. That's why.
I missed those.
Despite, I assume, him not being able to speak Korean.
No, it didn't matter. They were like, you should have been the brown one. What?
But to be honest with you, I've been guilty of the same thing.
The Pakistani guy, isn't he? Like, which is especially hilarious in Rose.
I've been guilty of that though. I've thought, it's like, man, there's a dude on this show that looks like a friend of mine, and that should have been you. And it's like, why? Because he's a black dude. And I'm like, man, I've got to change the way that I think about this. Is like, instead of it being that, why couldn't it be you were the main white dude?
You'd be literally any of them. Yeah.
Literally any of them. So I don't know. It was a cool.
I thought that show did a pretty good job. Also, I mean, I know we talked about it quite a bit, but to that point of, I felt like they did a really good job at making it only matter to a point. The kind of the brownness, as it were, and the religious, like the Muslimness, it mattered in a few crucial areas, but the majority of what that character did, the sheriff, the majority of the character of the sheriff in Midnight Mass is like, it was totally non-contingent on any of that. Like, all the memorable stuff was just his humanness.
It's also nobody casts his sheriff as a brown dude. Nobody does that. That takes somebody thinking, oh, I should get rid of this default image of a white dude being the sheriff in my mind. Like, that takes a creator to think that way, to make that. My favorite,
I'm not usually a big fan of the kind of trolling quote tweets. I just kind of scroll past it, but I did laugh when somebody said, would have been better if they cast a Muslim instead of a Hindu or something. And he was like, atheist. And
what does that do for you?
I laughed pretty hard at that. I was like, all right, that's nice. That's
because they also just assumed he was Hindu based on his last name, which is like a whole separate.
Well, exactly. Thing. That's the thing. Like, there's a lot that kind of gets revealed in that exchange that just, and his handling of it was pretty deft. I thought it was pretty funny. But in any case,
my food just got here, so I'm gonna go eat.
You go do that.
Which chain you in, Troy? Which chain is that? I'm trying to work out.
It does look like a chain.
It's a chain. I can't.
Did I tell you anything?
Oh, it's one of the upmarket burger places. So I'm guessing. Is it Honest Burger? No. Which one is it?
McDonald's.
Beef Eater.
Beef Eater?
There you go.
It's not a good situation right now, guys. It's not a good situation for me.
It's not the most appealing name. Beef
Eater. Can you show us your meal? We'll be the judge of your meal.
No, I had guilt with a side of shame is what I had. So. Smothered in disappointment. So that's what I'm gonna have for tonight.
That's some fries for sure.
Oh yeah.
Well, enjoy yourself.
Enjoy.
Thank you for
Cameo.
joining us. Have
Bye,
fun.
everybody.
Enjoy all that Uxbridge has to offer.
Yeah, the Chris Pratt thing is interesting because I feel like it seems like people are disproportionately upset about it because actually the reality is just that it's funny. Like it is just a series of memes, which makes the conversation or the discourse seem a lot more potent than it actually is. But it's mostly just it was that he was so unexpected as Mario that nobody, especially because the original voice actor, what's his name, Charles Martinet, is actually in the movie as well. You're like, wait a minute,
they're
what?
gonna have some weird cameo for him or something.
I think
right?
they have
there'll be
several.
like a flashback or something.
They said
to him.
he plays several characters, but Chris
Fascinating.
Pratt is Mario, which I can actually see it working. It's odd, but I can see
I'm
it working.
intrigued. Like, do you think with he's going to just do Chris Pratt? Like he's going
For
to do
Mario,
it like he
yes.
plays him in
For
like, the
Garfield,
Lego
he
movie or
can't.
whatever?
For Garfield, I feel like he's got to do something different. Garfield's got to be a bit grouchier than your regular Marvel movie hero, Chris Pratt.
It's true.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, there's a very heavy lethargic quality to the default state of a Garfield character that I don't think I can picture ever once in any role of his. He tends to be such energetic roles, and, like just by virtue of the character.
Yeah,
Interesting.
agreed. But it is interesting to hear Troy talk about the perception of being in everything. I've never thought about how he feels on the receiving end of everyone saying that all the
That
time.
joke, yeah.
It's an
I've
interesting-
definitely made that joke
have
myself
I.
several times as well. Yeah, I feel a bit bad
You can't
now.
not do it. And like, I never even really thought about it. I
But
mean, he's very good at what he does.
Well, and and we've talked before. Like he and I have talked, not on the show. I mean, but about
We have conversations outside the show. What the hell?
occasionally by mistake. We'd run
We're
into
having
each
secret
other.
conversations without.
When he discovered I was actually a bag checker at
Look at
Trader
Lana, she's
Joe's,
upset.
and how he is. He has to have a 10-minute conversation with the checker, so we ended up
course.
talking. And
Gives you a gift.
yeah. So yeah, we said he was saying how in some ways his fantasy is to kind of go uncredited and just see if anybody can figure it out, because the goal is to disappear. The goal is not to be such and such game featuring X actor. The goal is to reinvent, and that I relate to.
I think
remember
the medium, I wouldn't have known it was him.
I think in a lot of things, like I take the piss, but like he's got incredible range.
He
I
does.
wouldn't say this
He
if he was
feels
in the room. He's an incredibly versatile actor.
He doesn't
He's a
sound
pleasure
like
to direct
Joel.
for that reason. No.
it's true. The character, like Booker DeWitt, is a lot closer to his normal speaking voice, but
Delson kind of is too.
it's still got some affect to it that's different.
Like, I don't
it's
think
more-
that
it's not-
Joel
sorry.
and Troy would get along. They're so different as people that I don't even think they
Joel
can have a
would hate
conversation.
Troy.
I think
I
so
wouldn't
too.
introduce
I
that.
think he'd hate
Yeah.
him. Yeah.
But Troy wouldn't hate. It would,
No,
it would
Troy
be
wouldn't hate him.
one-sided.
No, Troy would desperately want to be
I don't
liked
think
by
Troy
Joel.
hates anyone by default. I think he
Troy,
yeah, he'd want to impress him, you're right.
he would really want to impress him. He'd be like, it's really important to me that Joel
He'd
likes
start
me.
speaking in an accent to him while
No,
they were having
he'd wanna-
conversations
he'd-
to break him down.
He'd want to impress him by playing guitar.
Playing guitar, but then Joel
But
would think it was
also-
pretentious.
Like versatility,
exactly.
he would.
It's got to come from the soul. You don't have it, man.
Versatility. I think Joel would mainly just be like having a nap because he was in a safe Bond world without zombies. I
That's
think
true.
He'd be pretty
Yeah.
chill. But like, I think versatility. Often
I
we
like the
immediately
assumption
go
of
with
that is that Troy would definitely not have survived the zombie-ridden version of reality.
Yeah,
that's
no, I'm
implicit
imagining
in
a
what
world
you're
where
saying.
Joel comes to our world. Yeah. In the Sony cinematic
It just turns into a
universe.
roast as soon as Troy leaves.
We complimented him.
We've only complimented him, but I will say, like, versatility, genuinely, especially, and this is very true in Troy's case. Like, versatility doesn't mean you're unrecognizable. In my opinion, that's not, because you've got you've got a specific vocal cords. You've got specific. It's not about how much makeup you can put on your face or how much you can sound different. It's about how much you can inhabit genuinely the characteristics of different characters. And
A lot of the
Troy
anime
has
actors sound the same.
range.
They sound like themselves, but they're playing different people. And yes, Troy
Yeah.
has emotional range.
Yeah, he can. I can trust him in a lot of different roles, a lot of different ages, a lot of different like backgrounds of character, tones of performance as well. Like he's got great comedy chops, but he's also
Chris Pratt,
good at the
I've
dark.
seen less of that.
So far, right? But
Yeah.
how much of a fun plot twist would it be if he absolutely killed both roles?
I don't.
Like,
I actually don't doubt that he's capable of it. Like that's the thing that always
Hmm.
comes up with these casting conversations. Austin, you mentioned Uncharted earlier. Like that's a recurring thing. Is like
I think
the
it was
people
actually
who are
Troy
making
did,
these
but
choices have reasons that they are doing it. They know why they are doing it. You know, like
Well, it's
I
like
have-
whenever there's like a comic book character who's bald, and the same 5 names are just thrown around
Right.
Twitter for like.
That's why
I
we're
think
bad
because-
at casting, and there are professionals who do that. And I think it's weird
Yeah.
to not give people the benefit of the doubt when it's like, do you know what they had to go through to get there, and how many people they had to prove themselves to? Doesn't mean it's like 1-to-1. Like the criticism about Tom Holland is he's in a really tough spot. I think like watching the Uncharted trailer, definitely it as a film isn't hugely appealing to me. I was like, this is a lot of different stuff that I'm like, oh, I like that they've meshed all the games together. Like that's kind of exciting. Obviously meaning it's not canon. Tom Holland's in a really tough spot where we see him as being so young because when we were introduced to him, he was really young. He's now 25. And I've seen so many comments where people say he's too young to play Nathan Drake. And I want to be like, Nathan Drake was a 25-year-old at some point. Was he never allowed to be 25?
But our experience of him...
He was 29, I think, when you
Really?
first
I
meet
thought-
him in Uncharted 1.
Oh, I thought
I could be wrong.
10 years older than that.
He was 29 going on 40 though as a character, wasn't he? I think that's
I
what
could be
is.
wrong.
That's
It might have been
rooted.
older. I don't know why I had that number in my head.
Well, your judgment is, or your guess is probably more informed than mine. But in my memory, he was always, he was
He's
not.
31 in Uncharted
Yeah.
1.
I like it. It looks fun to me. I think as well, but honestly, I think I'm just getting old. Most young actors look young to me now. I can't.
Yeah, but it's
Austin, do you
also
have the
like,
same thing?
and he was
Like, I
introduced
feel
to us
that way.
as Spider-Man. Like,
And as a high school kid, right? Like playing a younger
Exactly.
character as well.
yeah,
you
it's
know?
not like I think he's like. Still, no part of me looks at him and goes Nathan Drake, and I'm always okay with that. When I was a teenager and the first Iron Man movie was coming out, I was such a little snobby piece of shit about it that I was like, he doesn't even look like Tony Stark, because I thought that I was cool because I read comic books and that this film was like, you execs don't know what you're doing. And I'm very glad I've gotten past that era of my life, where my attitude now is
I think they also thoroughly proved you wrong on that one.
Definitely proved me wrong on that one. I was so convinced it was, and I cared that his eyes weren't blue. Like, why did I fucking
It's
care?
like the James Bond conversation that happens every single time. To the extent now that I'm pretty sure the James Bond PR team trigger it intentionally just to get it in the conversation.
Heath Ledger is such a
what
good
James
example.
Bond should look like.
That we thought that it wasn't right. Like, it's just, I don't care anymore if things
That's
aren't
probably the
1-to-1.
best-
There's just no point. Like,
That's
they don't have to be
probably-
the same.
That is probably the most like actor win moment ever,
Yeah.
because I don't think there was one person that was like Heath Ledger, absolutely, and then similarly afterward, not one person that was
know.
like, okay, well that was anything short of divine revelation.
Totally. And it's
Didn't
it's
it kind of also happen with Phoenix with Joker? I remember lots of people being sniffy about that. Or you've got what's his name in '89 Batman.
Phoenix. I had no doubt that he'd be able to do that, because that
Yeah,
dude
he
is a
never
fucking
has
actor.
Yeah, he.
Oh,
exactly.
I mean, incredible actor, yeah, for sure.
And I feel like Heath Ledger also kind of, it's like that seal was broken, and and
Yeah.
never mind being the same character, but just even the novelty of an actor making such a hard about face.
Yeah, I mean, he was just too pretty was the thing. That was why everybody doubted him. It was like, this hot guy? No, how dare you? So
Associated also with very fluffy roles, like
Yeah.
not the most substantive.
10 Things I Hate About You kind of stuff.
Yeah, like fun.
Which
I mean, I
still a
guess
great
I
movie.
guess I guess I take that back in the form of what's the Ang Lee Brokeback Mountain.
True.
But that's not theatrical in the way that the Joker is. It's so introspective
Yeah.
that it somehow
yeah.
seems like a smaller leap.
Yeah, I agree, but it's not
But credit
fluff.
where it's due on that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I don't, exactly.
But it's just, yeah, whenever this stuff comes out, I don't know that I felt like I feel super compelled to go see that Uncharted movie based on what I saw, and it is hard to make those connections of those characters being the characters that we know. We're so familiar with Nathan Drake, but my attitude is they don't have to be the same, or I would just play the games again. Like, they're allowed to do something different. They have to, I feel like if I go see that movie, I'd want to see a reason why it was made into a film. Like, it'd be like, what is the why when these games are so awesome? Why do that? But I
And
don't
so
feel like they need to be
film-like.
the same. They are very film-like, yeah. But like the Chris Pratt thing it's mostly funny. I never would have expected that guy to play Mario in a million years. But that doesn't mean I don't think he can do it. I do.
How
wanna know
funny
if
would
he's
it be
gonna
if
do
it
an
turns out
Italian
he has
accent,
no
though.
lines? It's just literally just woohoo the whole time.
Can't, right? He can't do an Italian American accent. He can't
Probably
do it.
not.
That's pretty good. That was pretty.
Here we go. I think my Peach is better. Hang on. Thank you.
Why are they even hiring? Yeah,
Solid,
why?
solid.
Yeah,
Well
yeah,
done.
I have some
exactly.
Yoshis as well. I've just,
Yoshi?
I can do some Yoshi. Oh, sorry, you upset because I didn't say Yoshi?
Yeah.
Yeah, we say Yoshi in Australia.
Well, where are you
It's
right
actually
now?
kind of insensitive of you to question her on that, Austin. That
Yeah.
is the traditional Australian pronunciation.
Yoshi.
It's
But
embarrassing.
what fucking country are you in right now?
But where are you right now, man?
on the Red, White, and Blue podcast. Thank you very much.
I represent literally Australia's national colours are green and gold.
Well, isn't
And
that a
Brazil.
little piece of rebellion?
Yep, sure is. That's me rebelling, desperately trying to stay here on my visa. Please give me a green card. I'm applying right now and it's expensive. Thank you.
It's right behind you, Alana.
Means a lot. Fuck off.
The green card is coming from inside the house. Well,
So-
I have to say, no. If you were going to pivot,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to make an addendum to the whole, actors who kind of are not recognizable in a new role, because this is definitely, there's a whole composer equivalent to that as well, where there's some composers that are very reliably basically the same every time. And then there's some that go out of their way to try to be maximally versatile. And I remember once there was an interview with Danny Elfman where he said the greatest compliment he can ever get is if somebody watches a movie and they're shocked that they discover, like, they're hearing the music and then at the end they see his name in the credits and they go, holy shit, really? Because I think he became very self-aware and even self-conscious about the idea that all the Tim Burton movies created, and like the theme to The Simpsons, that created this idea of like there's a kind of Danny Elfman shtick, kind of wacky, slightly silly, sort
Please
of.
play the Simpsons theme tune on your piano.
The fact that he doesn't even have to look.
In fairness, I just look at the camera.
I like to
Oh,
celebrate
true.
Austin's.
But it's
awesomeness.
backwards, so it was a little. I had to feel which key
You
I
did
was
great.
on. But
You did great.
Yeah, it was
did
kind
you-
of. It wasn't great, to be honest. I wasn't impressed.
You did fine.
I wasn't
it's not ready for
impressed.
broadcast.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
It's not the standard we've
Have
come
you
to
seen
expect.
Bond, Austin?
Not yet.
How does the theme tune to James Bond go, Austin?
Hold on, I got to turn to get my E.
Okay, you got that.
That's right. Very good.
Very good. Thank you.
The whole thing.
Yeah, and you got to do the
Mirrored. Nice. Very good. Very good. I was gonna say, I really enjoyed it. I really liked it a lot.
I've heard it's great. I
yeah.
keep hearing people be like surprised too. They go and see it like expecting it to be fun, and they're like moved and think it's kind of
I
My
felt
neighbor
that way.
spoiled it for me.
Oh, I was so glad I didn't get any spoilers. I only saw it this weekend, and I was like, I'm
I've had
amazed
no
that I didn't get
spoilers.
spoilers for it.
Please
We
preserve
will
my
not
words.
spoil
I
it for you.
I will not spoil anything.
But
I
I-
literally got home and she walks up to me. Oh, I saw the James Bond film. Oh, did you like it? Yeah, I liked it. Oh, and then said the obvious spoiler that everyone who's seen the movie
Amazing.
would expect her to say to me.
I was moved by it too. I thought it was fantastic. I feel like I need to go see
great.
it again because I feel like I've tricked myself. And then I thought it was so good that I was like, this is a fucking phenomenal movie, but I'm like confused. But my point was going to be, it feels like Hans Zimmer plagiarized himself. Like
He's been doing that for about
some of the
15 years,
music.
hasn't he?
You're like, that's just the Dark Knight. You just took the Dark Knight. It's the same thing. And it sounds so similar that I almost was caught waiting for another note to come in that's in the exact order, but there's just one note missing from the Dark Knight.
So,
it's so similar.
I think part of the reason for that is Hans was a replacement to another composer who was fired.
I didn't know that.
Okay.
And it could be that by the time they reached that point, it was like, we don't want to, it bit us in the ass to kind of do something
Play it
unusual.
safe.
Because the guy they hired, a really talented dude named Dan Romer, I don't have any clue the circumstances of his firing. I felt horrible for him because this was like a massive step up in visibility of film. He was before that famous for like the one that put him on the map was like Beasts of the Southern Wild, and then he worked on he did have a pretty big hit around the same time as Bond earlier with the Pixar film Luca, but he was attached to
great.
Bond like 2 years ago. People from our neck of the woods would know him as the composer of Far Cry 5, the cult one, and he did an excellent job. It was one of those funny because I pitched for that job, And I remember when I heard his score, I was like, well, that's basically everything I wanted to do, but I think he probably did it better than I was gonna. So like, well done. They chose well, Ubisoft. So yeah, he is nothing but my respect and admiration. And so the idea of like a huge blockbuster action film was wildly, despite the Far Cry credit, because the music in Far Cry is not like that. It's not a big orchestral thing. I remember being really intrigued that they were willing to embrace on a franchise that has such an iconic musical fingerprint. Like there are, I could improvise in the style of Bond. Like it's a vocabulary so established that composers have to adapt to it. It was
interesting.
John Barry created a sound. John Barry did like 14 Bond films in a row and created this sound that's sort of like part very melodramatic orchestral, part big band jazz, part like the electric guitar. It's almost a little like fusion. And never mind the fact that people also forget that the Bond themes is like a steady parade of some of the most lusciously romantic music imaginable. Like you forget that those scores, all the sort of love themes over the years, are some of the most saccharine and just like expressive and beautiful themes.
Very sexy music, which is not a qualifier I use for music very often. It always is.
To me, sexy is like to me it feels more earnest. It feels like legitimately as if this is the sound of pure like souls meeting, like pure true love, which is hilarious because that not once does a Bond film, I mean the most recent ones kind of flirt a little bit with the idea of him actually sort of getting vulnerable and then horrible things happening, and then like they did that a little bit in the Timothy Dalton License to Kill.
Lazenby famously is the Bond who married, right? Like that's and Timothy Dalton's kind of the fallout of that.
Well, because I think License to Kill, the very opening is the wedding that they get like attacked and she gets killed like or whatever at the wedding, and so the whole movie is he goes rogue for revenge, and they try to take away his license to kill and he doesn't care. I
mean, it's been taken away like 30 times at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it never takes. It's just kind of a song and dance. It's a game they play.
Yeah, it's cute.
But yeah, to me, it was always so funny that like just the fact that it works, the formula somehow actually sort of, they would have these incredibly romantic music with a guy that's pretty overtly like a misogynistic like woman predator who just doesn't seem to emotionally engage at all, and the music is just so ignorant to that fact and portraying it like it's this almost mythological love story.
Yeah,
and so it's so
fair.
set. Yeah. I could see when they hired Dan Romer, stepping into that, there's a certain expectation. Even a composer like Thomas Newman, who's very much got a sound, when he stepped in to do the ones like Skyfall and Spectre that were directed by the guy he works with a lot. The hell's his name? The guy that's married to Kate Winslet. I'm blanking on the director's name. They've done a bunch of movies together.
This is annoying me.
I got it.
Look it up, please. Yeah.
Sam Mendes.
Thank you.
Oh.
Sam Mendes.
Road to Perdition.
Should've known that, yeah.
Yeah, like
him.
Thomas Newman and Sam Mendes have a long running history, so that he brought him into the fold of those Bond films. And you can hear the moments where he's putting on the Bond costume, and then the moments where he's being a little bit more Thomas Newman of himself. And it's great. I mean, it works awesomely. And Skyfall was the first James Bond score nominated for an Oscar, I think the second ever.
Wow.
They were generally overlooked despite being some of the most iconic music of all cinema history. But in any case, I think that the idea that the Hans Zimmer, kind of didn't reinvent the wheel. Plus, on top of that, Hans gets a lot of criticism for the fact that he has built up a team around himself so that if he's, as life is very busy and he's working on a lot of projects, people will help make sure things get to the finish line. And while I don't know the internal division of labor too precisely, I do know that Dune was a deeply passionate and personal project for him. It was basically his dream. He told the director, Denis Villeneuve, like, this is basically my favorite book of all time. I've longed for an opportunity to work on some worthy, some adaptation that's like does the book's justice.
Dune
You're clearly
didn't
doing
feel
that.
like The Dark Knight to me. Like that was
Not at all.
different. Oh, what a movie. I loved it.
So did I.
Made
And I
myself-
really
I
need
made
to see it
myself.
again.
I decided I had to read the book before it, so I'm like quarter of the way through book one, and I'm just trying to get.
Yeah.
For what it's worth,
I'm
the
trying
movie
to-
only gets about that
and
far.
I've been told,
Which is what it
yeah. So I'm
feels
just trying
like.
to beat where the book. I'm trying to, as long as I can read past the point the movie is, I can watch the movie. That's what the rule I've set myself because I want to read.
Yeah,
it first.
it's there aren't really any spoilers anyway, because as someone who's not read the book, it very much does feel like literally a chapter 1 in any of the fantasy novels that I've ever read. It doesn't even feel like book 1. It feels like, this is literally just the introductory chapter. But both visually and auditorially, I don't know if it's a word, just incredible. Like, just so pleasant to experience. So many beautiful shots. The one thing that I keep thinking that I could have done without was there's a lot of slow-mo where there's some woman going, ah, because they're in the desert. Maybe a little bit too much of that for my liking, but otherwise I was like, it's just a feast. It's fantastic. It's so rich, and like there are all the cheesy words I can throw in there. It's luscious. It's visceral. It's just, I want to see it again in IMAX. Like I saw it in IMAX once, and I'm like, I want to do that again, maybe 2 more times, because I had such a
Oh wow.
a good time just absorbing it, even if the plot didn't mean that much to me.
Yeah,
I think I'll miss it in cinemas, unfortunately, because I'm not doing cinemas yet. But
It's fair.
I will get to it at some point for sure.
that Denis Villeneuve is such a beast of a director. I remember
Blade Runner's phenomenal,
Yeah.
beautiful film.
His
I never
pacing
saw
is
his
very good.
first. He did a film. His very first film before Prisoners, I've never seen, but I remember when I saw Prisoners. Did you ever see that with Hugh Jackman and Terrence?
I did. I
Terrence
didn't
Howard
love it.
And,
Didn't love
oh my
that
God,
one.
really? I did. I was
Yeah, it
blown
didn't
away.
click for me, that one.
So vicious,
Yeah.
that movie. But then to go from that to Sicario, where that was
Which is
like
amazing.
That
Yeah.
fucking hell, that movie was gripping. It just like that guy can master an atmosphere like so few other
Yeah,
directors.
you're right.
He always feels like he's really in control. Like everything is planned. It wasn't one of those like, fuck, we're running out of daylight, get what you can get. Like a lot of movies, it's so hard to make a movie, especially, even with a huge budget, there's still just so much to get done. And there's so much ambition that they always feel like they kind of just barely work, and it's like really lucky when they really come together, because it's so hard. A producer friend of mine once said, "No movie's ever made. They are forced by sheer will into existence." It is such a daunting task, and
Games
games
are
are
very much
really
the
no
same.
different.
Yeah.
It's so, and as you've talked about, Mike, repeatedly, like under the hood, the duct tape and WD-40 that is the reality of most of it. Movies are often the same, like all the sets and props and everything, it breaks the instant they yell cut, because it was not meant to last more than 3 seconds. And it's just, it's really, really hard to make. And yet the really great, like the transcendently great directors feel like somehow they managed to outsmart all of that. And every shot, it's like they got exactly what they needed, and they knew what it was going to be before they ever set foot on set. And his movies, like Arrival, Jesus Christ,
I think that
guy
might be one of my favorite movies. That fucking what a film.
Beautiful.
And
He
the
is very
ambition.
good, and I think the thing that, like, when we list any of these movies, and that I have not seen Prisoners, but other than that, it really is pacing. Like, I feel like they're all just so perfectly paced, like
Blade Runner
consistently
to
ripping.
me,
Blade
that
Runner
was
is slow.
Yeah, and it felt slow. It felt a little like there's a difference between slow from a pacing standpoint and slow from I'm starting to believe my own shit about myself, and like I'm indulging in like
I thought
my
it was
genius.
incredible, but I also only watched it once, which is generally telling.
Oh, it's good second time. Definitely
Yeah.
go back.
How
It's
long?
good
Isn't it
nice
really
genius
long?
also.
Well, for me, the thing that it suffered for on the first viewing for me was, and to be honest, this was true of the original Blade Runner for me as well, was I wanted to see where it was going, so I was constantly annoyed at it for not telling me where the plot was going. And I think both Blade Runners definitely benefit from rewatching when you know what's going to happen, you know where it's all going, and you can just kind of, for lack of a better phrase, live there for a bit. You know what I mean? Just enjoy that world and that ambience. It's what you're saying, the kind of the atmosphere of it and the sense of place.
I think that's probably a really good assessment as to why it felt tedious to me, because it is such a wonderfully conceived plot world. Like there's such good storytelling that you do want to see where it goes, that it's a little difficult to take the pedal off the gas and enjoy the experitional aspects.
I think we've been
how
trained.
beautiful to look
I
it
think
is.
I think modern cinema has trained us to be kind of care too much about plot in our, especially in like sci-fi and action movies. Like this happens, then this happens, then this happens, then twist, then this happens. Like we're kind of, there's a rhythm that's now expected.
As well, actually, is there's probably a little bit too much plot.
It's just we and I think in sacrifice of tone and world building and character stuff, like I think we've been.
Oh, I definitely agree with that. There are some people who are total absence of character in the interest of plot, which is the opposite of every university lecture I ever had about writing. Don't just have interesting characters. People can be complicated. The plot can be you need to go to the bank today. Like that's
and
it.
I think
Totally
part
agree.
of that is that's what audiences remember plot. Like, and I think
It's
audiences
true.
talk about plot more than they talk about characters.
Plot's
People
more
come out of
marketable.
movies. Well, plot's more marketable. It's more you can tell people there's spoilers, and then that makes them rush to the cinema. It's just interesting. I actually had a conversation last week with a very talented game developer making a very cool game, and we got to the subject of story, and the story he pitched me for his game was all lore that happened before the game started. It was kind of all of the kind of the setup basically, and that this is what my world is before the player starts. And having to kind of, and I just basically gave him, poor bastard, I gave him like a bibliography of books on writing to buy. But it's like, it's that thing of like, that's how we consume stories now, I think, to an extent. It's, when I'm going to the cinema to watch like an ad, like the fact that when I saw there was a Dune movie and that people liked it, my first thought was, oh, I have to go and read the book. So I go in knowing what it's, you know, what this is about and everything. Or like when you're going to a comic book movie and you watch, at least I do, the YouTube video that's like, here's
Everything
the 10
that's
things you
happened
need
so
to know
far.
about this character, you know. So you can sit in the audience and go, that costume's from comic number 93.
You
know?
feel smart.
Yeah, it's a weird, and that's probably not the best way to consume stories or think about stories. And as a writer, I have to kind of push myself away from that all the time towards like character arc and world building and all
I
the
think
stuff
you've
I
done a
actually
pretty good
care
job
about.
of that, Mike. I think you've done a pretty good job of that.
Well, I'm, you know,
think
quite
you're
a
right
writer.
there. Yeah.
Quite
You know,
a
it's
writer.
funny though.
I do have to go.
Oh well, then I have nothing funny to say.
You can give me a real, I'll give you 60 seconds, Austin. And then you're
Don't
done.
Villeneuve it. Get through it quickly.
I had a call with someone earlier today. We were talking about exactly the kind of pitch that you just described, Mike, where somebody goes into great depth. I've had it happen where I'm being onboarded to a project and they say, you know, they give me this huge, really exciting description of their world.
But then
and
what
then
happens
it's
in the
like,
game?
Yeah, and they're like, oh, well, the game is you smash bugs.
It's a platformer.
And it's like, it always feels so heartbreaking to realize that they've put so much energy into the environment.
Sometimes
and it's,
the money people want that as well.
But
though.
I will
That's the
also
crazy
say it's fun. For the
is fun.
writers, those writers' rooms where you're like, and then this, and because that person did that, those days are so exciting.
Yeah.
It's super fun to do, and it's fun to tell everybody else and for you all to get excited about together. So it's like, it's the most exciting part. It's more exciting than, what is their arc? it's
I
love
don't
that.
know. I don't know, though.
I feel my wall currently is just all post-it notes for my next game, just working out mapping out all the arcs, and I love that. That's my favorite bit.
To me,
like
that
working,
because
threading the needles of how characters
See, I also
bounce
like
off each
arcs,
other
but I
intrigues me.
tend to intersect them with plot very heavily too, and not just be like, and then wisdom occurred. Like they're always in some way related to key events. And
Oh yeah, they should. Yeah, plot should drive character, and character should drive
Yeah.
plot. Like at all times. Yeah, it's a. Yeah.
when you said that people remember plot more than characters, or that, like, it's interesting. I don't know if that's true for me, because when I think of, like, the first thing that came to mind when you said that was, this is a slight spoiler on How to Train Your Dragon 2, but
unexpected, but okay.
but no, like, these are movies full of big spectacle, but in
They're
that
awesome.
movie,
They're so good.
Who scored How to Train Your Dragon 2?
John Powell.
You're
one of
actually
the
right,
best
Austin.
scores
That
of modern
is a
time.
fucking good example of me remembering the dynamic between the characters and not the plot.
It's when his father and his mother reunite, and there's this standoff, and then he just goes and hugs her, and it was like, oh, what a moment! It was so beautiful.
You're right.
And so, and like, it totally about
Kudos
the arc
to that
of the
writer
character. You know,
and that. Yeah, kudos to that team then for,
Those movies
for
are
making that
perfect.
moment.
They are really good.
They are very good. Those ones. Yeah.
Didn't expect to end on this note, but thank you for watching Play Watch Listen, everybody. I'm Ellen Pierce. That's Mike Bethel. That's Austin Wintory. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.